Does it look fantastic?
Are you done now?
I'm done. How's it going, folks? We're out here working on the Roadmaster again. We seem to have gone a little bit backwards, as you can see. There's no suspension or steering. Well, no. There's a steering box and an idler arm and a center link. That's all the steering is in it. Brakes have been removed in the front end of the car. There's a brake line running to the back, but I got to get that replaced. That's one of the things on the checklist. Anyway, but now we've got all this stuff to put back in, you know. I got the engine painted. I got all this painted, actually, because we had time. And I'll show you why we had time. So as we were putting this back together to get the engine remounted in its spot and the transmission all remounted in its spot, we were doing some cleanup and some paint just to make it look a little bit better, because it is just an $800 car and it was pretty rusty. It is in fairly good shape. I'm glad that we did what we did. There were other videos on this of us just kind of messing around, doing some rain day stuff, cleanup, doing the best we could on those days. Now that we've had a couple of weeks of no rain, we were able to really get a good look at the car and stuff. But originally, after our accident in Missouri, you know, I had taken a look at this, but I hadn't seen that this ball joint was popping out of there. So, I mean, like, this, it was fairly damaged if you look at it. And the bottom of the thing is really bad. So I've got a new shock. And I picked up a new control arm. I think I could have used this. It seems like it's still good. It doesn't look like it's cracked. But that means I would have had to have refurbished the old control arm. And so that meant a lot more rust removal. And I still have a whole bunch to do on the back of this car. So when we get to that, I wanted to be, you know, still alive, because, you know, it's rust removal so far has been kind of toxic, it seems like. I wanted to save myself a little bit of aches and pains, so I didn't do the rust removal. Now, I do plan on taking these bushings out, seeing if we can save those, and getting this ball joint out, see if we can save it and reuse it at another time if we need it. Maybe carried it along in the car with us. But that being said, this almost killed me. Apparently the shock was more damaged than we thought it was. So when I was pulling this out of here, I could not get this off because I didn't have a cutter that day. And I was pulling this down. And this thing, the post, whatever you want to call it, comes shooting out at me. There was no tension on the spring itself, but when this happened, but this, just from the pressure inside this, flew off about that far away from my head, and bounced off that wall. So yeah, it's been a bit of an adventure, but we're now putting stuff back together. I had to order a new one of those, so it just came in. And last night we started painting it to match all the other stuff, because we did put a coat of paint on stuff, because even though they were new, it is a Minnesota car, and we did drive it in the middle of February, and there was salt on the roads, and I never did wash it afterwards. It wasn't painted to begin with, so it got rusty. So we did a bunch of cleanup. Let's take a look. So let's take a look at what underneath the hood looks like right now, and what it's going to take to get this car back together. All right, so not so bad. I got the firewall all painted. That's all high temp paint, kind of a chassis style paint, not supposed to nick or chip so easily. Thought that was a good idea. This did the same thing here. This is all kind of dirty because you know what? It rained again. Imagine that. So we're gonna put this back together. I'm gonna try and get this back together. I want to paint these bolts after we get them tightened down. So we'll put some plastic on them. This side here is the only one we can get to put back together. I actually just realized I forgot all the brake lines at the house. They're all bent and ready to go back on. I was just kind of removing some rust and making sure that they were all reusable, seeing if I needed to rebend any and bring them out. The only thing I have left to really do underneath here, and I think I'm going to do it later, I'm going to put some plastic around this, and then I'm going to clean some rust out of here and get this repainted. I will probably flat black it like I did the outside of the car and, well, the hubs, the shock, and those. So I did do that as well. I don't know. It's kind of cheesy. It's high temp aluminum paint. It's not chrome. It's aluminum. I didn't, spray chrome it. But yeah, we painted these a little bit deeper black. They were a little bit blue because that's kind of how they come factory. I didn't do a lot of taping off. I just kind of painted over everything, bushings and all. It shouldn't affect the working of the car. Eventually, I'd like to go with some tubular front control arms for this. So, that's that. But anyway, I think it looks pretty nice. A little bit of color in there. I mean, it's going to be sitting right up against this, and there's all this black everywhere, and there's a big fender that sits here, and you're going to see just a little bit of aluminum or aluminum color sticking out of there. The other thing we did is we painted the spring the same aluminum color. So we're hoping that sticks out a little bit, and then, kind of neat. And then obviously Chevy orange, we didn't do a lot of cleanup on the aluminum there. I don't know why, we just didn't do it. It is all taped off, and so the spots for where the gaskets go should be good to go. Yeah, I'm gonna repaint. Once we get it in, I'm gonna remove the valve covers and cover them up, and repaint then the valve covers while they're off there, because I want to replace the gaskets in here anyway. So that's why I just kind of did this. And you know what? I just realized I should have taken the cap off, because now the filler cap is almost orange. Maybe I should just paint the filler cap orange. That might be a good idea too, right? Might as well. I mean, a little bit of, or I could throw that silver color in there. We painted the tops of the motor mounts. So, these are the clamshell. So it's the clamshell on the bottom, or what am I trying to say? The mounts on the bottom, and then it's the clamshell on the top that mounts to the engine, right? And it sits in there like that. So technically, we painted that clamshell the aluminum color, like that there. So we're going to start getting this put back together. I'm going to start by putting the top A-arm on, and then we'll go to the bottom one, and we'll get the spring compressed and put in place. We're hoping not to scratch any of that paint off, but if we do scratch the paint off, my plan is to just spray some of that aluminum paint in the top of the can, and then just take a brush and brush it back on there in light little bits, just to try and cover up. I don't know whether it's going to work or not, but I figured that's better than worrying about the paint on an $800 car, because now it's just a kind of a lipstick on a pig, I guess. So we will keep you updated on what's going on here. Yeah, and we're going to get to it. So I'm just going to give you a first glance here. I don't have the inner fender in, because technically that inner fender isn't even done yet, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it because it's so rusted. That's like that's the last thing I'm worrying about, be putting that in. So hopefully by October I'll have a fender in there, or inner fender in there. I moved my exhaust appointment back because now at this point I have 3 weeks to get this car done and running. And it's a Saturday, and I just got off work here a little while ago, loaded up the truck, and came out here to get this done, or to start. It's going to be like that the rest of this week, probably the weekend of next weekend. I'm going to be out here long days again. But anyway, see, doesn't that look kind of nice? I thought that would look nice. There's a little bit of color there in the middle of nowhere, right? Yeah, looking good. So before we get too far, and because I was all excited to get this put together with the paint and all that, and oh man. Anyway, we're gonna do the right thing for once and put the new motor mounts on the bottom side in, because now that there's nothing in there, it'll be way easier to get to on the inside of the crossmover. So here we go. Ready to go. Well, actually, we forgot a bolt at home for that one up there in that corner up there. So we're gonna put that in tomorrow, finish it up. They're both fairly tight on there. Yeah, making good progress. We're gonna keep moving. I'm gonna get this side put back together, or get that lower control arm on, and see what that takes to mess around with. Well, we're getting there. We got the top on. I put the little washers on the ends. We painted those aluminum color too. Got the shock down there. We got the lower down there. Putting the grade 8 bolts in. I don't know whether there's supposed to be washers on there or not. Didn't have washers on there before, but the bolts are just the tiniest bit longer. That was the closest ones we could get for thickness and for length. So that's what we're doing. We put a lock washer on the back as well. Maybe that's not the right way to do it. I don't know. Seems right to me. It shouldn't go anywhere, I wouldn't think. So we're going to put this spring in. We're going to get ready to compress it and throw it up in there. And then, well, that's pretty much the goal accomplished for the night once we get that done. I got to get the hub attached to the top, and then we're ready to do this thing. So, all right. Honk, honk, honk. It's the great evening goose migration to the pond here on the farm. We are, well, we're pretty much done for the night because, well, I didn't paint something good enough. The springs, actually, as soon as we started looking at them, we're missing a bunch of paint. So we repainted them. We're actually going to pack up here. We're going to cover the engine back up. We got most of what we wanted to get done, except for this spring in. It is really the hardest part of the whole thing. So tomorrow, when we get that other A-arm out, we can actually get to this point again on the other side before we put the springs in. Put both springs in simultaneously, or one right after the other. And yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. I may put the other top control arm before we go on, just to get that out of the way, and the little washers on and stuff like that. But we are pretty much done. Watching the geese over here. Well, I guess they're not going to the pond. They're just over here eating bugs, I guess. That's what I'm going to guess. So yeah, we'll leave you with this bit of nature and fond farewell. And have a good evening. Thanks for watching.
Whoa, got a lot of wins on my dinner plate. Ain't coming down, gotta levitate. I know my next win is the best one, so I tell them that I'm on